I would like to compare the movies Escape from New York and Escape from LA. Now, I'm going to say right off the bat, I actually prefer Escape from LA. I can hear the torches being lit, I can hear the pitchforks being sharpened, but hear me out. A couple nights ago, I introduced my wife to Escape from New York, and I was actually like really excited to watch it because, I mean, it's a John Carpenter movie. It's an early 80s John Carpenter movie. Apart from Kurt Russell, who is a legend among men, it has Tom Atkins in it. Um, Lee Van Cleef. Whereas like Blade Runner was sort of like a noir, this was more of like a futuristic western. And Snake Plissken is just an awesome character. To that point, okay, I will say that in Escape from New York, to me, Snake Plissken is a bit of almost kind of like a fish out of water. And not that, I mean, he is literally, I mean, that's like the whole point of his character. But what I mean is, even from like an audience perspective, it's sort of like the way he comes across, it is almost like a video game character. I mean, I understand that this was really pre-mainstream video games, like you had like Atari and shit, some very primitive shit back when the first Escape from New York came out. The post-apocalyptic version of New York, like with the, dudes on drag performing the show and stuff like that was really funny. Like the cabbie guy, it's what New York would probably be like in a post-apocalyptic world. That being said, I kept on telling my wife, and I mean, maybe I remembered the movie differently than it actually was, but, sort of like, I'll wait till you get to the Duke of New York. It's Isaac Hayes, and it's freaking awesome and stuff. And not for nothing, I mean, the setup at least is really cool. Like when he's driving up and there's like sort of that pitmobile with like the two chandeliers hanging from the front of the car. It's like, dude, that's so freaking cool. And even the music that's playing, it's got a little bit more funk on it. It's kind of like a typical John Carpenter theme, but with a little bit of cowbell in there, Anyways, the lead up is really good. And then it's sort of like, even if your argument is this movie is better than the second one, can I just ask you, like, just point blank, is it just me, or did they like not do enough with the Duke of New York? Because Isaac Hayes, and that was another thing too, is like my wife and I had discussed, like, maybe there was more to the character, but Isaac Hayes didn't like read well and stuff. And I'm like, no, because the dude was on South Park, Isaac Hayes is a badass. I just really feel like that character could have been so much like bigger, and more interesting. There was so much more that I felt that you could have done with him. And I'm not, again, not shitting on the movie. I just feel like there was unrealized potential there. All right. Now, let's jump forward a little bit to Escape from LA. I guess it depends on what constitutes a good movie to you. There are parts of Escape from LA that are like accidentally funny, but for the most part, like, I think it was going for more of like kind of an Evil Dead 2 vibe. They were looking to make things a little bit bigger, a little bit more video game-like, a little bit more self-aware. It was bigger, there was more action, the action was more absurd, but everything has sort of a self-awareness to it. And when I reference Evil Dead, or, Evil Dead 2, like he was going for that vibe, the fact that Bruce Campbell was cast in this movie as the Surgeon General of LA, I don't think that was an accident. One thing I will say about Escape from LA that I find perplexing is it's a Paramount Pictures, but when Snake Plissken is heading in that little submersible towards LA underwater, he passes by the ruins of Universal Studios. And I'm kind of like, that's kind of weird. I mean, maybe it was like Paramount Pictures' way of being like FU Universal Studios, but I mean, to me, it kind of comes across like product placement, honestly. But the movie is bigger. It is more cartoonish, but it does maintain that sort of like Western kind of vibe of the first one. More is done with the villain in this movie, Cuervo, okay, who is Peruvian, which is interesting. I feel like John Carpenter didn't want to pick on like the Colombians or the Mexicans or anything. But at any rate, more interesting of a villain who did more. The fact that the president's daughter kind of like, ditched out on him to like join up with this guy, like a typical daughter who's pissed off at her dad. So she shacks up with this fucking, I don't know, mental case. The basketball game was freaking awesome. Like, I think that that was better than the Gladiator Arena in the first movie. These movies, let me tell you, are prophetic, particularly Escape from LA. I understand that John Carpenter's a little bit more of a, like, you know, a liberal individual. Never mind sides. He was very prophetic, okay? There were like, you know, there's the whole, like, LA turning into, you know, a third world kind of freaking mess of a place. Frankly, we're one earthquake away from that right now. The whole like wall thing, the whole like excommunication of like undesirables, the manufacturing of a virus that, you know, is used by the government to scare people. I mean, like really on the nose with a lot of shit in Escape from LA. And there's no way he could have known. It's really just mostly coincidence, but I think that it did what a sequel should do in that it was bigger, it was more bombastic, it was entertaining. And again, it's not as serious a film as the first one. And also, again, I'm not shitting on the first movie. I did enjoy it for its own thing, but I just felt that like Snake Plissken's character was better suited to the world of the second film. I also think that the world of the second film was a different world because it was LA, not New York. So, spoiler alert, I am going to talk about the ending of this movie because it's fucking awesome. So if you haven't seen Escape from LA, first of all, please do, all right? But if you haven't, just tiptoe out now because I'm about to get into it, okay? 3, 2, 1. So the fact that Snake Plissken obtains what they wanted him to and then uses it against the world. We're on the brink of war with like all these different countries, and Snake Plissken just basically said, and they even warn him, they're like, dude, if you flip that switch, like you are going to send us back to the Stone Age. Like 500 years of progress in the human race is just going to be gone and we're going to have to start from scratch. And he's just like, beep. And then he lights up a freaking American spirit because, you know, nobody's allowed to, what is it? Like, you can't have, like, red meat, you can't smoke, you can't, like, own guns, all sorts of shit that this new future has in store for us, you know? And here's Snake Plissken, like, the middleman that people nowadays, more than ever, can probably relate to, just shuts everything off, lights up an American Spirit cigarette, and that's the end of the movie. That is badass. That ending is badass, and it totally stomps on the ending of Escape from New York. I'm sorry. That's my opinion. If you didn't want controversy, you shouldn't have come to this channel. Now, I've heard that there was a third film in the works back in the day, Escape from Earth, but the poor ratings of the second film, which, by the way, I checked on Rotten Tomatoes, the fan score is actually lower than the critic score. Imagine that. I do not understand that at all. I loved Escape from LA. I really think that it is great. Even where it is accidentally laughable, it's still a more entertaining movie. It's still a bigger movie. I don't know. I mean, like, am I nuts? Like, clearly I'm in the minority. But anyways, because of Escape from LA's poor reception, they never did Escape from Earth. And I would just like to say right now, on the, you know, 2,000 million to 1 chance that John Carpenter, Kurt Russell, anybody of consequence really sees this video, go for it, man. Make an Escape from Earth. John Carpenter, honestly, flip the bird to all the haters out there and make it bigger and badder than the first 2 films combined, as far as I'm concerned, all right? But that's an opinion. As for all of you folks out there, probably the vast majority of you who preferred Escape from New York, I would love to hear your opinions below. I would also like to suggest that you give Escape from LA another watch. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just aged better or something. I've always kind of liked it, though. I always thought that it did what a proper sequel should do and really kind of up the ante on everything. Yeah, and if you guys like this video, leave a like, subscribe, and that's all she wrote.